Good morning, or depending when you're listening to this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and I was always told I had a voice for radio, so I've made a podcast all about the Pokémon trading card game. And you're listening to PTCG Radio on what is, as usual, a very special week. I like to think we have a lot of special weeks around here. We have just concluded the 2015 World Championships, which means we've got some interesting news about where it's being held next year, the potential thwarting of a potential massacre of players, more on that later, and of course all the results from the tournament, what was good, what did well, who did well. But as always, I like to think I've gone a little bit deeper than most people. I have looked at the percentage of people that got from day 1 into day 2. I have looked at the percentage of people that made top 8 on day 2, that had an automatic day 2 invite, and then of course the percentage of people that made day 2 having already qualified through day 1. I like to think that I go a little bit further than most people when I look at this stuff, just for you lovely people to give you even more lovely information on what will hopefully be a lovely podcast. I'd like to say I'm going to stop using the word lovely now, but I cannot guarantee that's going to happen. First, however, there are some, shall we say, unrelated pieces of news, so let's get to the non-world stuff quickly. I'll try and be quick, but there are some new cards that have been revealed, so let's go through them. I have no idea how long the podcast is going to be today, incidentally. You guys do, as you're looking at it now. You can see the runtime. Me just starting off, I don't know. Maybe it'll be a long and maybe it'll be a quick one. We shall see. So, starting off with the non-news stuff then. Looking over, and I'm going to Poké Beach again, more specifically on that in a minute, on Poké Beach. But there are some more cards from XY8. This is the new set, Blue Impact and Red Flash. It's going to be like X and Y, like Black and White, like Gaia Volcano and Tidal Storm. A lot of the Japanese sets actually launch as 2 parallel sets. So you can literally buy a pack of X or a pack of Y, and they've got half of the cards in each. There is going to be an Octillery, by the way. This is going to be our, I believe, this will be our, I want to say our November set. I think this is our November set here. There is an Octillery, and it's got a terrible attack, but it's got a really nice ability, Abyss Hand. Once during your turn, before you attack, you may draw cards until you have 5 cards in your hand. This should remind a lot of you of the Electrode that a lot of people played in Blastoise. Now, Electrode was just like Bicycle, it allowed you to draw until you've got 4 in your hand. Octillery's even better, and it is a stage 1. And let's not forget that Electrode was a stage 1, so I see no reason why this won't see play. Let us not forget, ladies and gentlemen, that being a water Pokemon, it can take advantage of Archie's Ace in the Hole, which is a supporter card where you can play it only if it's the only card in your hand. You then put any water Pokemon on your bench as if it were a basic and draw 5 cards. So there is no reason why you couldn't play 1 or 2 Octillery with 1 or 2 Archie's Ace in the Hole as a fun little tech in basically any deck. Although it should be mentioned that N is being rotated out at least in Standard, and I think it's called Ace Trainer, the essential replacement for N, only puts you down to 3 cards. So maybe it's not quite so important to make yourself N-proof as it has been, since the release of Noble Victories. Used to be a very important thing to become N-proof, but it hasn't been for quite some time. So, maybe this is a bit less relevant than it used to be. So, yeah, that's Octillery. There's also another Remoraid, but it's kind of terrible. I'm going to be honest with you, ladies and gentlemen. It's just not particularly good. One interesting thing from Octillery is that Pokemon are continuing their trend of Pokemon-based draw. For a long time, we had nothing but supporter-based draw. You had things like N and Juniper, and that was the only way to draw cards. Now, we've still got all of that, but now we started off with trainer draw. Things like Bicycle, and then into stuff like Acrobike, Trainer's Mail, etc. Now, with Shaman, and then Your Unknown, and then Octillery, now we're getting a whole bunch of Pokemon-based draw, because we've got the Vileplume, which blocks trainer cards. So with all this trainer-based draw running around, people can go, I'm going to play Vileplume to stop you drawing with trainers, which is a really, really good idea, except now people can go, well, I've still got Octillery, and I've still got Unknown, and I've still got Shaman, so I'm cool. Although it should be mentioned that both Shaman and Octillery are draw until you've got 5 or 6 cards in your hand, and if you've got a card full of trainers that you can't play, it's going to be hard to make the most of Octillery and Shaman. So, just so we're clear, Vileplume will still slow these cards down quite significantly. Now, we also know that in this new set, we are getting 2 Mewtwo EXs and 2 Mega Mewtwo EXs, which makes sense, of course, as Mega Mewtwo X and Mega Mewtwo Y. So let's have a look at them. The first Mewtwo EX has 2 attacks for a double 170 HP, weakness to Psychic, blah blah blah. Double colourless energy, 30 damage, any damage done next turn is reduced by 30. That's not very good. 2 Psychic, 2 colourless, 120 damage. Okay, let's move on. Maybe the other Mewtwo EX is better. For a Psychic Energy, Blast Ball, 30 damage, times the number of Psychic Energy attached to this Pokemon. That's not looking much better. Now, it's a little bit convoluted, I'm going to be honest with you, but when you Mega Evolve Mewtwo, you can use Mega Turbo to attach Psychic Energy from the discard pile, and you could then play Shrine of Memories, a stadium that allows you to use your Pokemon's attacks of its previous evolutions, like some people do in the Primal Groudon deck, and you could use that to allow Mega Mewtwo to hit for lots of energy, but you'd have to have a huge amount of energy on there. But that shouldn't surprise anybody. We've seen a real trend of when there is a Mega EX, the EX from which it evolves is just not particularly good. So let's have a look at the Megas. So Mega Mewtwo EX, I don't know which one it is. I'm going to be honest with you, I don't really care. There's 2 of them. This one for a Psychic, a Colourless, and 2 Fighting, and that is a heck of a cost. And remember that it is a Mega, so you've got Mega Turbo, but you can't use double Colourless here, so you've got 4 separate energy cards going to be needed. 150 damage. If there's a stadium in play, it does 50 more damage. The attack isn't affected by resistance or any other effect, i.e. it would be able to go through a Giratina's ability, for instance. So, useful, overpriced, but you stick a Muscle Band on, it's doing 220, which still isn't enough to KO Megas like Groudon. And so, it's not amazing, it's very overpriced, but it will one-hit KO EXs, and it will get through stuff like Groudon. Not amazing, but playable. The other one, however, methinks in the same way that Dragon Rayquaza, the Mega, looks kinda good, but colourless just blows him out of the water, we have the same thing here. Now, this one's got 210 HP rather than 230 on the other one. And weirdly, it's got 1 less retreat cost, because which Mega it is makes a difference. But for a double colourless energy, 10 damage, plus 30 more for each energy attached to both players' active Pokemon. It's just like X-Ball, but it's 30 times, not 20 times. And it's got a base damage of 10. So whereas X-Ball would do 40 damage if you had a double colourless energy and your opponent had nothing, here you have a base damage of 70. Because you got the base damage of 10, plus 30 more damage for each energy. It says energy, not energy card, ergo double colourless energy counts twice. Attached to each player's active Pokemon. If your opponent's got 2 energy, that's 130 for a double colourless. That's ludicrous. Essentially, Mewtwo EX is back, because this Mega Mewtwo, like Mewtwo EX from way back in, 2012, I think Next Destinies came out, this Mewtwo is also weak to Psychic. It's weak to itself. So if your opponent's Mega Mewtwo has a double colourless attached, you go out with a double colourless, there's 4 energy, that's 120, add the 10 is 130, times 2 is 260, you have got a KO, ladies and gentlemen. Although incidentally, if your opponent's got 1 energy, then that's 100 total, times by 2 is 200, which isn't enough. So if your opponent's only got 1 damage, you'll need 10 extra damage to get the KO. Now, because it's being released in a set, although it's not been revealed yet, You can bet money that you are going to have a Spirit Link with this. It is a Psychic, not a Grass, so you are going to have to wait an extra turn to evolve it. But holy moly, ladies and gentlemen, is that a pretty gosh darn nice attack. That Mega Mewtwo EX is going to see some play. It's going to happen. There are a few other Psychic Pokemon I want to look at very quickly. There's a Cresselia that for a Psychic double colourless does 70 and heals 20. It's not good, but I love that Cresselia, if there's a stadium in play, the retreat cost is 0. They love playing with Cresselia and retreat costs. And there is also a Haunter, which has got an ability that when you evolve the Haunter, both active Pokemon are confused, which could be kind of interesting. Oh, and we're going to get a reprint of Rainbow Energy. But Rainbow Energy's been reprinted in like every set forever, so we knew it was coming. It's really not a huge deal. But what it does tell us is there's going to be a Gengar. And quite possibly a Mega Gengar. And like I was talking about last week with Vanillux, Gengar cards are almost always interesting. Now, I know we've already had a Mega Gengar. Maybe we won't get a Mega Gengar, because let's face it, the Mega Gengar evolves from Gengar EX. This is going to be a Stage 2 Gengar. So maybe we won't get a Mega Gengar. Maybe we'll just get a Stage 2. Maybe I could have gone and cut that so I didn't make a silly mistake, but I'm not going to. We're going to be getting a new Gengar, and Gengars are always good. What is also really, really good is Gallade. 150 HP, it's a Stage 2, and that sucks. But that's the only thing about this, ladies and gentlemen, that sucks. For a double colourless energy, 60 damage. That ain't very good. If you played a supporter card from your hand this turn, 70 more damage. That's 130 damage for a double colourless. And do you know who plays a double supporter card on their turn? Everyone. That's really quite good, ladies and gentlemen. Let's not forget that this will one-hit KO a Mega Mewtwo, and I've only just finished saying how good Mega Mewtwo is. This is awesome. You pop a muscle band on that bad boy, he's doing 150. You play this with bats, and I know you're rocking around with a whole bunch of Stage 2s. It's a blooming good job this is a Stage 2, because this Gallade is really, really good. And let's not forget, ladies and gentlemen, that Gardevoir evolves from Kirlia, as does Gallade. So you have got, that Gardevoir that heals 20 per turn. You could play one of them as a tech. Oh, and just in case the attack wasn't good enough, it's got a really good ability, Premonition. Once during your turn, before you attack, you may look at the top 5 cards of your deck and put them on top of your deck in any order. Yeah. It's got a consistency boosting ability as well as an awesome attack. Now, it is a Stage 2. And no matter how good Stage 2s have been recently, people ain't been playing them. But have they been this good? I'm not entirely sure they have. It's going to be very, very interesting to see whether Gallade gets play or not. Now, you can use something like a Wally or a Rare Candy to get it going on turn 2 rather than turn 3, and you'll need something else. But, it's a Psychic, so you could run something like a Deoxys, the one that can draw cards on turn 1 or does more and more each turn. I mean, the fact that it's a Psychic Pokemon, you can run it with Dimension Valley and attack for 1 energy. You could play this with Wobbuffet. With Dimension Valley, he attacks for 1 energy. You could play it with Latios. I mean, heck, we've got a whole bunch of really good Psychic Pokemon. Okay, the Natu's terrible, but it's still, if you get the KO with it, you take an extra prize, so you can set up a KO for Natu to get Natu to get the KO. There's a lot. I think there's a Psychic deck brewing here. With Wobbuffet, with Latios, with your bats, with Gallade. It just seems like there is a Psychic deck brewing, ladies and gentlemen. I'm a little bit excited. Now, the last non-Worlds news I want to go through is Pokebeach. Now, and I want to mention, this is pure speculation on my part. I have not been given any information from anyone. That's important to note, because it might sound like I have, but I assure you I haven't. Although saying it like that makes it sound like I have, but I assure you I actually haven't. But when I do my YouTube videos, I like to use Pokebeach's card scans, because they're really, really well done, and I've gotten permission from Pokebeach to do so. And I went on there this week to get card scans, and they had, for a very short period of time, when the site was redesigned, you could search for a Pokemon and it would instantly come up with every card with that name. It was awesome. That doesn't happen anymore. It just links you to the official database on the Pokemon website. Pokemon have got to them and made them do that. Now, I don't know. I am speculating. But the fact that they've, we all know, it's common knowledge that Pokemon have not been happy with sites, no, it's not just Pokebeach, but Pokemon have not been happy with sites like Pokebeach, leaking cards before they're released, leaking Japanese scans. We know this isn't new information. Well, maybe it is, but for some of you it won't be new information. But the fact that not only does it no longer have their own scans, but it links you to Pokemon.com, nobody does that. We're a spiteful people by nature. What we do is we go, right, screw them, I'm not going to have card scans. The fact that they've linked them to Pokemon.com, I think that Pokemon have gone on to Pokebeach. I don't exactly know why, because it's not like Pokebeach really make any money from the website. But, it is all the intellectual property of Pokemon. Oh, actually, no, there are adverts on Pokebeach.com, so maybe that. But honestly, I think something has gone on, and Pokemon have had a cheeky word with Pokebeach, and it might be other things I haven't noticed yet, but one of the things Pokebeach have done is they've, instead of having their own scans, they now link straight to they just link straight to the US Pokemon site. Although it should be mentioned that they're still leaking Japanese language cards, and I'm still using Pokebeach for my leaks of Japanese language cards, so I don't understand it, but the best card scanning website has gone, and that makes me sad, and I smell foul. So, we're 16 minutes in, let's talk about Worlds. Actually, just very quickly, check out my YouTube channel, youtube.com/PTCGRadio. I've done a new video all about the Tyranitar deck to go with the Vespiquen deck video I did about a week ago. They're awesome, go check them out, 15-20 minutes long, I think you'll like them. Also, check out my my video game channel, Wassy Plays. Just search for it on YouTube or look at the featured channels on PTCG Radio, because I have a sneaking suspicion if you try it, you might like it. For instance, I did a video this week predicting what games we could see on the Xbox Games with Gold in the near future. One of the ones I predicted was Tomb Raider. What is one of the games with Gold for September? It's Tomb Raider. I'm basically clairvoyant. So yeah, go check that out. So, talking about Worlds. Let's have a go through a few little things. Firstly, the competitor bag. I don't know why, but there's something about it. I like talking about what's in the competitor bag. I like looking at all the free swag you get. Although, to be honest, it does kind of make me sad, because I wasn't at Worlds this year. I didn't get the free swag, and I kind of like the swag. So yeah, I feel like I might have missed out just a little bit there. But hey-ho. In fact, before we get there, one amazing thing they have, and this isn't really TCG, but Pokken, where am I going with this? The fighting game made by Namco, which is they're the people who make Tekken. They're making a one-on-one fighting game. Now, we've known this was coming to the arcade, but it has been announced. We are getting it on the Wii U in spring 2016. I could not be more excited for that. So going back to the competitor bag, and a lot of people got the competitor bags this year. There really was quite a hefty turnout. But you got a Sailor Pikachu backpack. They went from they used to do backpacks back in the day. I thought there was no chance of going back to full-on backpacks because they are far more expensive than just, hey, here's a bag, like a shopping bag. But no, they've gone back to backpacks despite the huge number of competitors. And you also get a TCG playmat, a video game battle mat, a deck box, a hat, a plushie, a pin, a water bottle, a mini bag, a t-shirt, and of course the 7 languages of the promo, which this year was Champions Festival, which I believe makes that the 3rd year in a row. That's the one, if you've got a bench of 6 Pokemon, you can heal 10 HP from each of them. Yeah, kind of cool. And it's got ducklets on the promo and it just looks awesome. So that's what you got if you were a Worlds competitor. For getting 300 championship points, that's pretty gosh darn good. Now, quite possibly the most exciting announcement is where Worlds is going to be next year, and it has been confirmed as being in San Francisco. What we don't know yet, and just so we're clear, I am well in favour of it being in San Francisco. What we don't know yet is what date it's going to be, and that's very, very, very important. Now, a lot of people listening to this, I've had a whole bunch of emails and tweets and Facebook messages asking me if I'm going to Worlds, including one heartbreaking message from someone asking if he could interview me at Worlds, only for me to have to tell him I wasn't even going. Long story as to why I'm not going. I didn't go this year. I'm not going to get into it. I'm hoping to go next year. It is far more likely I'll be able to go next year, on one condition, and that is that it's not the weekend of the 20th, because my very best friend since childhood, we've been friends since we were 2, we're now both approaching 30, that's depressing to say out loud, and depressing that I'm doing a Pokemon podcast approaching the age of 30. Somebody tweet me out the wassing and tell me it's not depressing I'm doing this when I'm 30 years old. Should have grown out of this by now, arguably. Anyway, if it is the weekend of the 20th of August, then that means I definitely won't be going. If not, I think it's pretty likely. And looking at the past few years of Worlds, it is more likely to be the weekend of the 13th than the weekend of the 20th. Yes, I know this year it was the weekend of the, 22nd, not the 15th, but this year it was supposed to be in Florida. And I'll remember this time last year, we didn't know where Worlds was going to be this year because they had to rearrange it late because something fell through and they couldn't do it in Florida, so they moved it to Boston. So that might explain why it was a little later. Hopefully not the start of a new trend. So anyone out there who's asking, am I going to Worlds next year? And weirdly, a fair few people are. I've already had a few questions. The answer is, if it's not the weekend of the 20th, I bloomin' well hope so. If it is, I'm just going to cry. It's going to be a sad day. But San Francisco, that just sounds like fun to me. And it's beachfront. And I feel like Worlds should be beachfront. Now, let's go start talking about the decks from Worlds. Now, I gave you a list of decks last week. And it was Night March, Groudon, Manectric, Toad, Rayquaza, and Metal decks. Now, Rayquaza and Metal decks, I'm not saying they weren't played. I am saying they weren't successful, and I didn't really hear much about them. There were really 4 decks that really took over the weekend. There were 4 decks that were at least around the top tables being successful, clearly ahead of the pack. And they were Night March, Groudon, Manectric, and Seismitoad Bats. And Seismitoad Bats really was about the only version of Bats that was good this weekend. I am not saying other decks weren't played. I'm not saying other decks weren't successful. Heck, none of those 4 decks actually won Worlds. But I am saying that in terms of what decks were popular and doing well, they were the 4 decks. Night March, Groudon, Mega Manectric, and Seismitoad Bats. Rayquaza and Metal didn't really have much of a showing. So looking at day 1, now the information, and I was working from the best information I had last week, I told you that there was about a 1 in 6 chance of making it through day 1 into day 2. Now the good news for Pokemon is, they have always stated they wanted 128 people in Worlds, and in day 2, and let's face it, day 2 was the real Worlds, day 1 was an expanded last chance qualifier for which you had to qualify, but it was really day 2 that was the proper World. And I apologise to anyone that didn't get through day 1, that's not meant to be offensive, but clearly day 2 was a marquee event. And they had 128 people. They had exactly 128 Masters. They had 382 people who started day 1. 37 people qualified. That is less than 1 in 10. 38.2 people would have been 1 in 10. So you had basically 1 in 10 people getting through. Now, there were 7 rounds, and you got through if you had 15 points. That means you either had to have 5 wins, 2 losses, no draws, 5 wins, 1 loss, 1 draw, or 4 wins, 0 losses, 3 draws. They were the only way to make 15, or I suppose 16 points if you went 5-1-1. They were the only ways to get in. And it looked, now I believe, and I'm not 100% on this, but looking at the results online, it looked like when you hit 15 points, they took you out of the tournament. Certainly, as I was looking at the results for every round, people who had hit 15 points were no longer showing on the next round. So I think when you qualified, they basically took you out of it. Or it might just be that coincidentally every single person that got 15 points went, right, I'm done, I'm not playing anymore. I don't know which was which, but certainly I didn't see anyone that hit 15 points and carried on. In terms of UK players, there were a lot of UK players there. Nobody made it through day one. Shout out to Nick Pierce and to Paul Stringer. Lovely, lovely people. I know Nick listens to the podcast, very dear friend of mine. Paul, I love you, Paul, and if you're not listening, then I don't love you, I hate you, but you'll never know that because you're not listening. They both went 4-2-1, getting a grand total of 13 points and being 2 points or 1 win, or 2 draws, away from actually qualifying for day 2. And I feel very sorry, especially for Paul, who actually had a very, very good matchup in his final round. He was playing Hall Lucha Bats, and he just drew. I think he was playing something like Nightmare and just drew absolutely terribly, and had a whole bunch of bad stuff prized, which is upsetting, but there's nothing you can do about that. In much better news, my friend Andrea Ciolin, who is Italian but was playing for the UK for the weekend, he did make it into day 2, as did friend of the podcast Alex Hill and Daniel Altavia, who I don't know if he still listens to the podcast, but I know he used to. He used to get in touch quite a bit, not so much anymore, so if he does still listen, hello Daniel, nice to see you still listening, and the 3 of them absolutely chuffed they made it in. Now day 2, if you think day 1 was a little bit brutal, you had to go 5-2 or 4-0-3 in order to make it in. Oh my goodness, was day 2 just a little bit worse. In order to actually get in from day 2, now there was 128 Masters, there was a top 8. The cut-off point was 5-1-1, 5 wins, 1 draw, 1 loss. But that's not actually the full story, because that gave you 16 points. There were 6 people who had 16 points, and 2 of them made top 8. 4 people went 5-1-1 and didn't make top 8. In order to guarantee top cut, you either had to have 6 wins, 1 loss, because it was again 7 rounds, or go undefeated with 5 wins and 2 draws. They were the only way to go through. So, and half of the people that went through to top 8 came from day 1. So they're people that won 5, or went undefeated, 4-0-3, games out of 7 in day 1, and then went a minimum of 5-1-1 on day 2 as well. That's utterly ludicrous. Out of 14 rounds, that's 10 wins and a draw. As a minimum. That is utterly crazy, ladies and gentlemen. But, let me be clear about this, I am not complaining. It's the World Championships. It should be this difficult to get through. I don't know how many people agree with me. I loved the format this year. I really, really did. Now, if I was there, I would have been utterly gutted at the lack of a last chance qualifier, because as I've told the story on the podcast many times before, the one time I went to Worlds, I got in through the last chance qualifier. But making the cut-off point 300 points, it's very achievable for people that go to a whole bunch of events or are just pretty gosh darn good. And then you chuck everyone into the first day, and everyone gets the swag bag. You then take a small amount of people from that to go into day 2. And let's not forget, ladies and gentlemen, that at day 2, we're talking the top 16 players in North America. We're talking the top 22 players in Europe. You know, we are talking the real cream of the crop here in terms of really, really good players. So, you know, that's fantastic. And then once you're in day 2, the only thing I don't like is that 2 out of 6 people who went 5-1-1 cut. Other than that, yeah, it's the World Championships. By the time, and let's not forget, you can still get top 16, top 32 prizes. The prizes start at top 32. But, you know, by the time you get to top 8, you know, you're playing for a paid invite in top 4. You're playing for potentially 25 grand in scholarship money when you make it to, if you end up winning. So it should be that difficult to get in. The interesting thing, and I don't unfortunately have statistics about this, but I am not hearing many reports at all of people changing decks between day 1 and day 2. It didn't seem to happen. Certainly the people that made it all the way through into top 8, I'm pretty sure none of them changed their decks. So very, very quickly, we're not going to dwell on this, but in juniors, in the final, Hall Lucha Bats beat Groudon, which was devastating because the Groudon player, he was actually on stream in top 4 as well, beating Hawlucha Bass. That was a very, very fun game to watch. By the way, if you go to twitch.tv/Pokemon, you can watch a recorded broadcast of all the world stuff, and I very much encourage you to do so. And in seniors, we saw Toad Bats beating Donphan in the world's least surprising final. It should do that. Now, going into Masters, there were 8 decks in top 8, and I'm only really focused on top 8 here. There were 2 Toad Bats, 2 Night March, and then 1 Fairy Box, 1 Donphan, 1 Trevgar, and 1 Blastoise with Archie's ace in the hole. And that kind of makes sense. Weirdly, no Groudon and no Manectric. They didn't make it all the way through. But this is kind of what I've been saying. I mean, I've been saying this on the podcast for as long as I've been doing it. You know, I'm not saying Fairy Box was a really good play for Worlds. It's Tito Santosa, and I'm going to apologise again for any mispronunciations of names. He was the best player in the Asia-Pacific region, that's the word I'm looking for, this past year, with a ludicrous amount of championship points. And he had an automatic day 2 invite. He is an exceptional player. So I'm not saying Fairy Box was necessarily a good deck for Worlds. I'm just saying that he's a really, really good player. Similarly, the only chap, Tristan Van Wagner, who made it very far with Blastoise, I'm not saying he's the best Blastoise player in the world. Maybe he ran really hot. Maybe he was the only one that had a consistent enough Blastoise list. Or maybe he's just that damn good. I honestly don't know. But when a deck makes one top cut, and there is only a top 8, remember, so the sample we're looking at is very, very small here. But it could just be anywhere from good matchups to good player to good list, or in reality, probably a mixture of all of them. So, looking at the top 8, then let's have a look, and let's actually work through the top 8 bracket and see what the results were. So, in top 8, we had Maze Breckenmeyer. I forget how to pronounce that properly, despite actually knowing the chap. Sorry, Maze. He, with his Toad Bats deck, took down Tito Santosa, the lovely Indonesian chap who was playing Fairy Box. Simon the Rhodes Donphan deck, and I could not be cheering any harder for that, was unfortunately taken down on stream by former world champion Igor Costa's Seismitoad Bats deck. And on the other side of the bracket, we saw Martin Janus's Night March deck falling to Jacob Van Wagner's Blastoise deck. Martin being from the Czech Republic, Jacob being from the US. And Merlin Kitek from Germany, his Night March deck, taking down Sean Foisey from the US's Trevenant Gengar deck. Going into top 4, Maze's Toad deck took down Eagle's Toad deck in a very interesting mirror match, which we saw on the stream. And Jacob Van Wagner's Blastoise deck from the US took down Merlin's Night March deck from Germany. And that set up what looked to be a potentially epic final between Maze and Jacob Van Wagner. And again, if I'm pronouncing that wrong, I do apologise. You'll have to forgive me. And I know I heard all these names said on stream. I must not have been paying terribly much attention. Most of the world cheering for Blastoise because it was a rogue deck and nobody likes Toad, but Mies is a lovely European player known to a lot of UK players. We were all cheering for him in one of the least eventful finals you will ever see. In both games, Jacob got a turn 1 Blastoise with Caldeo and the energy. Turn 1, he was able to get free energy on the Caldeo, KO a bat, and Maze had nothing at all. And then on turn 2, game 2, got a decent setup, but on turn 1, Jacob managed to get a Sacred Sword for 170. For anyone keeping count, that means a Caldeo with 5 energy and a Muscle Band. And then on the very next turn, he got another energy to KO a Seismitoad, and that really was it. That was the final. It was very uneventful. Now, Jacob has posted his list online, so on my YouTube channel over the next few days, I will be doing a deck breakdown of that list, showing you the list, but more importantly, explaining the list, showing you exactly how it worked and why it worked as well as it did. And this is not surprising given that it won Worlds, but it is such a wonderfully constructed list, just looking at the list. And I know this sounds weird. It's probably the kind of thing you can only say if you're completely obsessed with a Pokemon trading card game like I am. But you just look at that list and you go, yes, that is a well-made list. And if that makes me sound sad, I do apologise. Shout out to Rick the Wall for helping us with the last couple of decks on that top 8 list just before I started recording here. So a very interesting world. I love that we had 6 different decks in the top 8. Now, as I said, if we look at the players, we had Tito, Martin, Igor and Mies had had invites direct to day 2. Whereas Simon, Sean, Merlin and Jacob went through day 1 and then went through day 2 as well. So it's basically 50-50. Half the players went through day 1, half the players had automatic day 2 invites. But there were 37 players who went through day 1 and 91 who had automatic day 2 invites. So, quite frankly, there was a higher proportion of players who went through day 1 and then through day 2. So going through day 1 did raise your chances of doing well in day 2. Of course, if you're in day 2, then 1 in 4 of those people is getting top 32 prizes. So let's make this clear, day 2 is still the way to go. Now, given who I am, and the fact that I have my YouTube channel with all of my games with commentary, speaking of which, they are coming back. I'm going to start recording at tournaments again quite soon. But I've got 2 old tournaments. I think they were post-Roaring Sky, pre-Lissandra's trump card being banned. I'll have to double check. But I've got 2 Little League challenges, which I am, when I've got a bit more time, when I run out of a couple of videos, I am going to get them up. More commentary is coming. But as I go through this tournament, any tournament I go to where people aren't already recording, and if they are, I'm likely to be able to get the footage, and if they're not recording, I will take my camera and do some recording. So I'm going to hopefully, as we go through this tournament, as I go to more tournaments, I'm going to get a steady stream of games going on my YouTube channel. And the fact that I've done this podcast for 3 years, over 3 years now, I think I should say a quick word about the commentary. Now, I am still greatly frustrated by the fact that there are 4 commentators at the World Championship, and they are from the United States, the United States, the United States, and the United States. The players are from all over the world, the judges are from all over the world, the volunteers are from all over the world, the translators are from all over the world, everyone is from all over the world except the commentators, because only Americans are good enough to commentate on the stream. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't think we should be having people with heavy accents. If somebody has a really strong Scouse or Birmingham accent, just look up online somebody with a really strong Liverpool accent. You'll see what I mean. I don't think those people should be on stream. Somebody with a really strong German or French accent probably shouldn't be on stream. But there are plenty of European, Australian, Asian, whatever people who can speak very clearly in English, and who know a lot about the game. And I don't know why Pokemon insist on going through this. If you're not from the US, you can't do commentary. What I'm going to be asking you guys to do over the next year is to send Pokemon a whole bunch of support tickets, basically saying, can we please have a non-US commentator? Obviously, I'd like it to be me, but I just want to see someone who isn't American. Now, as for the commentary itself, I think 2 of the commentators were really good. I'm not going to tell you who, because you know who I'm talking about. One of them was okay, one of them was terrible. One of them started talking about, oh yes, well, I like Groudon. Groudon's my favourite deck. Whenever I do testing, I play as Groudon. And then 2 minutes later, now, if his opponent might be able to get a Lysandra or Lysander and pull up the Primal Groudon. Really? Groudon's your favourite deck, and you've forgotten about his ancient trait. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying everyone always has to remember everything. Look back through my commentary. You'll find plenty of mistakes. But not for your favourite deck. That's just silly. it was obvious watching some of the commentary that these people are not regular players of the game. Now, there were a huge amount of Crobat decks on the stream. And when you're playing a Crobat deck, it's all about the maths. And I'm sitting there, and as an analytical player, as a part-time commentator, I'm sitting there and I'm going, okay, he's got 130 damage left at the moment. The Hawlucha's doing 80. That means, well, he's already got a muscle band on, which means if he can get a second strong energy or a Golbat along with a Crobat, he's going to be able to get the KO next turn, but he needs one of those two things. And these things just aren't being picked up on by the commentators. Now, some of them are. Like I say, two of the commentators were really, really good, and I was very, very happy. And when they were commentating together, life was good. But for instance, I'm watching the stream and they're talking about Donphan and Night March, and they're going, oh, Night March has got a pretty good Donphan matchup. It doesn't, ladies and gentlemen. As someone who has played that matchup again and again and again, unless the Night March gets an early Empoleon and keeps hitting Lysander over and over and over again, it can't win. Donphan has an insanely good Night March matchup. It's one of its best matchups. And if you play the game regularly, go to a lot of tournaments, do a lot of testing, you'll know that. Or indeed, if you listen to PTCG Radio. But if you don't go to a lot of tournaments, then you won't know that. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. But watching over this weekend, I was at times frustrated that we had... And I'm thinking about one commentator in particular here, but we had people who clearly don't play the game on a kind of daily, weekly basis, who don't go to a huge amount of tournaments, who don't compete, and who aren't watching the game as players watch the game, who aren't providing commentary which makes perfect sense to the players out there. And don't get me wrong, one of the things I think all the commentators did a really good job of was introducing the game to newer players. I think they did that really, really well. Far better than I do in my commentary. But we all know that the vast majority of people watching that stream are people that play the game. And even people that don't play the game, people who are watching, after a couple games of having the basics explained, let's show them how players play. Also, while we're here, what happened with the tweets on the stream? I was watching one of the US streams a little while ago, and Eric Nance, a very well-renowned US player, he was tweeting, and his tweets were absolutely brilliant. He was tweeting, so-and-so needs to do this, so-and-so made this play, it was really good. They were really insightful tweets saying about the game. And go back and watch the stream if you don't believe me. Like, every tweet on the stream this week was just going, I hope both players do really good. I like this Pokemon. Let's have a good competition. Just banal tweets. And I'm sure the people that tweeted at them also tweeted far more interesting things. But they insisted on only putting up the tweets. I looked at, there was a more expansive thing you could see on the official Pokemon website. And there were some really good tweets being sent in by all kinds of people. And the only ones that they put on the stream just said, let's have a good match. Oh my god, this is really exciting. I wish I was there. And it's, just banal. Now, let's get back to some positivity. The stream as a whole, just absolutely wonderful. I was gutted at missing Worlds this year. But the fact that I could go on the website and I could follow the results on the website, and there was a bit of a delay, of course there was, but I could follow all the results of every player on the website, and I could watch multiple games on the stream all weekend. That was wonderful. The stream was good, it was professional, it was well done, it didn't, as far as I saw, fall out at all. It was a brilliant stream, and I love that Pokemon have started doing this. It's really, really good for the game. And I'm not saying they need to change the whole commentary team. There's one especially I would very much like to see go. But honestly, if you want to do a fully American commentary team, an American Nats, a US Nats, fine. Because, spoiler alert, guess who's going to be commentating UK Nats next year? It's probably going to be me. And if I've got any helpers, they're probably going to be British. Fine. But at Worlds, ladies and gentlemen, if we're going to celebrate Worlds, let's do that. Anyway, sorry, I'm going on about the same thing too much. I am going to be asking you all over the course this year to send in support tickets. If you know how to do this, go ahead and do it. And I'm not going to tell you what to say, but essentially, Say whatever you like, but then, make the point that it's a World Championships. Can we have a non-US commentator? If you want to name me as an alternative, that would make me very happy. If you don't, I promise you I shan't be offended. But let's send a message to Pokemon. Let's have some non-US commentators. So, Worlds, good. All the reports I got back from Boston, well-run tournament, lovely people, and congratulations to Becca Manda, a UK judge, who was deputy head judge in Masters this year. And, I'm going to forget all the other British judges now, but I know that Nigel Eddy was also judging over at Worlds this year. I think there were 5 UK judges. Huge congratulations to them. It's good to know that we have some of the best judges in the world in the UK. That makes me very happy. So, the last thing I want to talk about is the, quote, Pokemon Massacre. Now, this was a piece of news, and I'm sure most of you have probably heard it by now, but it was a piece of news that came out after Worlds that a couple of Pokemon players were arrested for having guns and making gun threats. Now, if you read the news, the story goes like this. Couple of Pokemon fanatics made gun threats on social media, saying they were going to kill the competition, then turned up to Worlds with, I think, a shotgun and some kind of rifle, I forget exactly. But there were 2 guns and a bunch of ammunition in the car, and they were arrested by the brave Boston PD, who thwarted a potential massacre. If you believe the report I saw on social media, the story goes like this. Idiots post bad joke on Facebook, have guns in the car because they're going to a shooting range on the way home, do not realise that their legal permits from their home state are not legal in the state of Massachusetts, and get arrested for being idiots who made a bad joke and had guns that they thought were properly licensed but were not. Getting away from Pokemon for a minute, as a general piece of life advice, these jokes aren't funny. I mean, they might be funny, but they never end up funny. There was a story that made the news a little while ago. There was a British couple. They were going to the US for a holiday. And I think it was the chap, he tweeted, "We're gonna destroy America." Now, I don't know if this translates to other countries, but in the US, when we say we're gonna destroy something in that context, we don't mean we're gonna blow it up. We mean, yeah, we're gonna go there and drink and party, and essentially, we're gonna have lots and lots of fun. We're gonna make the most of the opportunity. That's really what we mean by destroy. When we say, I'm gonna destroy that pizza, we don't mean I'm gonna attach a bomb to it and blow it up. We mean I'm gonna eat that pizza and it's gonna be awesome. But they tweeted that they were going to destroy America. And what happened? They land in America, get arrested, get put in jail for a couple of days, get put back on a plane, get sent back to the UK, and they will never be allowed to visit the US again. And their one visit was not particularly fun. So just as a general piece of life advice, don't write stuff like that on social media. People are watching, people will find it. Now, do we have any sympathy for these people? Now, if I had, and I don't know, I'm just going by what I've read, and I've looked into it as much as I can. I've gotten all the information I think I can from this. Honestly, no, I don't think they were going to massacre people. I really don't think that was on the cards. I think they're morons that made a bad joke on social media. But the 2 things are at play here. Firstly, way too many people have been arrested for this. Those idiots should have known better. Secondly, and I don't mean to offend any US people listening, because I know I have a lot of listeners in the US, so please don't be offended. Things like this, and I'm talking gun massacres where people do get killed, they happen in the US far more often than they should. And every time they happen, somebody turns around and goes, why wasn't this acted on? Why wasn't this taken seriously? Why didn't people try harder to prevent it? Well, this time they did. They found people who made a joke/threat about gun violence at a crowded public place, who had guns that were unlicensed on them, and they arrested them. Now, these people are being held in jail without bail until their first court appearance on September the 1st, which is 6 days from now. It's next Tuesday. And they could well end up going to jail. And if they, and I can't imagine they would, but they could be done for something like conspiracy to commit mass murder, which would land them with a very, very lengthy jail time. Now, they never took the guns into the venue. The guns were in cars that were parked a little way away. They were Pokemon players. It was posted in a way that seemed a bit like a joke, but I could easily see them doing jail time for this. I don't know enough about the US system to know. Again, I'm going on what I've seen from other people. But, you've got two choices with this. Either we can say that everything's a bit of a joke and don't take it too seriously, and when something does happen and it wasn't, then we drop the ball. Or we can just be really, really harsh, and every so often some moron that made a bad joke is going to be put in jail when maybe they didn't deserve to be. But there's a reason why you or I have never been put in jail for making stupid gun threats. Because we don't make stupid gun threats. So yeah, that was a potential Boston Massacre. I don't think anything was going to happen, but I like that the police took it seriously. What's going to happen to these two people, I don't know. I will report on the podcast when we have some kind of resolution to this. So, that, ladies and gentlemen, was Worlds 2015, and I sincerely hope that when it comes to Worlds 2016, I will be reporting from Worlds and recording podcasts at Worlds and just going to a huge amount of fun along those lines. I've told you all about some fun new cards, and I've told you everything from what was in the competitor bag to where it's going to be next year, what were the popular decks, how many people made it out of day one, how many of them made it into day two, what records you needed on day one and day two, what decks made the top 8, who did well, etc. And I've gone on a bit of a rant about the commentary, and just to clear it up, I do not think the commentary was terrible. I think there were people on the commentary who could have been replaced with better people who play the game more regularly, and I think they desperately need a non-American to do a bit of commentary. And that's not because I hate Americans. I love Americans. I have a great many number of American friends and listeners and all of that. It's because it's the World Championship. And it's the only facet of the World Championship that isn't international. And that makes me sad. So, thank you very much for listening. Make sure you hit me up on Twitter at the Wassy if you want to talk about anything. If you were at Worlds and you're listening, tweet me a record. It will be fun. Thank you to Patchy Fan who did on Twitter. I forget his name. I do apologise. But thank you, Patchy Fan, for tweeting me. Didn't do as well as he wanted to, but had fun. And that is by far the most important thing about Worlds, like I said last week. You can email me at PTCGRadio@hotmail.co.uk, and of course check me out on YouTube at youtube.com/PTCGRadio, and check out Wassy Plays. I'm like 3 people away from 100 followers. It's growing too slowly, gosh darn it. Thank you very much for listening. My name's Ross, and you've been listening to PTCG Radio.